Okay. Are you guys able to see the screen?
Yes, sir. Yes, we can.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thanks for the confirmation. Once again, good morning, everyone. We can start today's class. So from today onwards, the infrastructure as a service in the cloud will start actually. Okay. To begin with, we will try to understand about the virtual machines. So virtual machines, in the sense you already know, virtual. When we say virtual machine, or a host, or a server, everything is same. So we will call a server when if it is a physical server, we call it as a physical server. If it is a hypervisor or if it is in the cloud, we'll call it as a VM or the host. Okay. When I say machine, it is nothing but a server. So why we call it as virtual machine? Because it is not the physical server. It is the virtual machine which will be built inside the hypervisor of that Azure data center. Okay. So let us get started. We call this as theory of virtual machine. So before we get into that, so we need to know couple of terminologies. We couple of terminologies we already discussed yesterday. Okay, we discussed about server. Server means you already know. Server means it is nothing but a kind of server, computer. Okay, in which the server operating system will run. If you look at your computer, if you go to the command prompt and type Windows version WinVer, it will give you one operating system. If that operating system is like Windows 10 or Windows 11, we call that computer as a client computer. But if you find like server operating system inside that, like starting from server 2012, 16, 19 or 2022, okay, we call that computer as a server computer. The only difference between a client and a server is the operating system. You can even run a server operating system in your laptop as well. If you install the server operating system to your laptop, that laptop will act as a server. You can install any services for whatever services you wanted. Okay, you can deploy application server, you can convert a DHCP server, you can build a Active Directory domain controller in your laptop as well. So the difference between the client and the server, client means he is always a consumer, he will always consume a service. Server means he will always serve an application or a service. Okay, the difference between the client and the server, technical difference is like client means it will have a client operating system, server means it will have a server operating system. If the server is installed in a physical server, we will call it as a physical server. If the server is within the hypervisor, we will call it as a virtual machine. That is a two difference, and that is what server and client means. So in sometimes for a server, we will also call it as a host. When I say host, that is host is nothing but it is a terminology we will call for a network node. So inside the network, if you have a computer or if you have a client or a server computer or sometimes even a switch and a router, will be called as a host. Any network device for that matter. Host is nothing but it is a network device. Predominantly in the language, IT language, if somebody talks about host, that is nothing but a computer. Either the computer can be a server or the client, no matter. So basically, when somebody talks about server, host, VM, everything is computer only. Okay. So now VM you already know. So VM means it's a virtual machine. VM is the abbreviation. VM is a virtual machine. Why we call it as a virtual machine? The virtual machine will be created on top of a when we will install a hypervisor on top of a physical server, and using the hypervisor we will convert or we will create small virtual machines inside one big physical server. So you have a physical server with 100 CPU, 100 GB of memory, and 1 terabyte of storage. So using the hypervisor, okay, what you will do, you will divide that big hardware into small pieces, and each and every pieces will work as a separate entity, separate virtual machine or a separate server or a separate computer. That is why we will call it as the virtual machine. The virtual machine can have whatever operating system I mean you want to install. Either you can install the Windows client operating system, maybe a Windows 10 or a Windows 11, or you can even install the Windows Server operating system, okay, or Linux operating system. In the Linux also have various the plethora of operating system. There Ubuntu is there, Red Hat is there, CentOS, FreeBSD, okay, Solaris, okay, multiple flavors of operating systems are there within the Linux, and you can even deploy the appliances as well. So no matter what operating system is running in it, if you create a virtual machine, we will call that as a virtual machine irrespective of the operating system. Okay, so now you know what is a server, what is a client, what is a host, and what is a VM. Okay, any question with these 4 points? Okay, silence is no. Okay, now let us understand the on premises. Yesterday I gave you some background about it. Okay, so on premises is nothing but where you are working. Say, for example, you are working in the office premises. In the same building, you have a data center, and we also call it as a data room. Inside the data room, you have the servers, racks, network devices. Such premises we call it as on premises. Okay, on premises is nothing but your physical location where your workplace are hosted. That's all. If that data center is there remotely, we will call it as a cloud or the remote data center. So the two difference. If the remote data center is there somewhere, and if you are using the internet to access such data center, we call it as a cloud data center. And you have a remote data center, but you are not accessing the data center via internet, but you are using a wide area network. Then we call it as a remote data center or LDR, local data center, okay, or remote data center. That varies from situation to situation, it will get vary. Okay, basically you should understand what is on premises and what is cloud. That's all. Okay, and you see here I have mentioned cloud is your remote data center which we connect using the internet from an URL. If you want to connect to a Azure data center, say for example, you know now in the Azure we have around 54 regions across the globe. Correct na? To connect to any of the data center, you have only one option. What is that option? You should have this portal.azure.com website. Go to the browser, type portal.azure.com, hit enter and enter your username and password. As soon as you enter your username password, Microsoft will allow you to access the 54 regions, whatever you wanted. You can select the region where you want to deploy your workloads and just get it configured. That is the cloud. Okay. Now, migration. You should also understand migration because nowadays everybody is moving towards cloud because cloud is cheaper, cloud is scalable, cloud is quick, okay, cloud is easy. Okay, that is why everybody is moving towards, and cloud is not so risky. Cloud is a managed services. A lot of managed services are there. You don't have to worry about managing of the services. Okay, if you build a virtual machine, that virtual machine will be there in somewhere in one of the data center, and Microsoft is taking care of everything. I mean, you don't have to worry about the power, you don't have to worry about the networking, and you don't have to worry about the disaster scenarios as well, because Microsoft maintains at least one copy of the virtual machine is available for you in case of any kind of disaster happens. Correct na? Since all this flexibility is there in the cloud, people are now thinking to go towards the cloud from the on premises. Now, since they are thinking to move from the on premises environment to the cloud environment, okay, then a new terminology gets in, that is called as migration. So migration is nothing but you are trying to move a workload from your on-premises to virtual VMware or physical to VMware or from VMware to cloud. No matter. Either you can directly move the server from the physical server to the cloud, or you can directly move the server from physical to virtual machine VMware, or from VMware to cloud you can directly move. No matter what. Migration is nothing but basically a moving a service or a server from one place to another place. Example you see here, migrating server from on-premises to virtual environment means you have a physical server, from the physical server to virtual VM where you are converting or moving. We call it as P2V, means physical to virtual you are migrating. Sometimes what happens? From virtual VMware environment to Azure cloud or Google cloud or AWS cloud, you are moving or you are migrating the workloads. That is called as migration. Okay, and physical location, you should understand. Site means it's a physical location. So normally when you talk about in the office calls and all, these words will be coming. People may talk migration, people may talk site. You should understand what exactly site means. People will tell there is an issue, there is a P1 or P2 ticket raised, and a couple of two, three sites are impacted. You should understand what is site. Site is nothing but it is a physical location where your office is situated, or maybe where is your production plant is situated. Correct? Na? That is called as site. Site is nothing but it's a physical location. Okay, you might have heard. No, whenever there is a production impact happens, they will tell, okay, maybe in Bangalore, the things are not going well because there is an impact. So Bangalore is a site for us. When Microsoft talks at the top end, right, they will tell in India, Bangalore. In India, some of the regions are impacted now due to flood, where maybe Chennai has got impacted or partial Andhra also got impacted. Correct, na? So that is how the site means. Site is the thing, but it's a physical location. Any question with this slide? Are you guys able to hear me properly?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. So the same thing. So this is about the traditional wordings, okay, terminologies, the traditional data center operations. But if you come to the cloud, right? So in the cloud also there are a couple of terminologies you should understand, because starting from today we are going to talk about a new language, okay, the cloud language. And when you know the language, or when you know the meaning of these words, you can speak technically. Okay, see, when you are in a calls, when you are talking to someone who's technical, you should always use a technical language. You should never use a generic language. As, when you start using the technical languages, the weightage for your talk will be increased. When you talk generically, then the weightage will not be there. Okay, what is the generic talk? Say for example, if you don't know what you mean by a region, you will not be able to know, you will not be able to explain them, stating that okay, one place it is there, it will move to another place, like that. If you talk, there is no meaning. But you can talk like Azure has got a regions, so each and every region has got availability zones. Availability zones nothing but there are three the different physical locations Microsoft has deployed the data center, and all the three availability zones act as a single region. If you want to increase the availability of the application, okay, you can deploy the virtual machines, or you can deploy the workloads, one workloads in one availability zone. Like that you can speak. If you don't know the terminologies only, or if you don't know the meaning of the terminologies only, it is very difficult to speak. Okay, so let us begin with by understanding the region. Okay, so when I say region, or when somebody talks about region in the cloud, not only Azure, in any other cloud provider, the same understanding. So when somebody talks about region in a cloud, the region is nothing but a physical location. So I told you there are 54 regions in the Azure. Correct. Now, since we are studying Azure, now we'll let us take the Azure only example. So Microsoft has deployed. There are 54 regions. Okay, in the entire world. Okay. So let us consider Western Europe as the one of the region. Western Europe. So this Western Europe is one location in the globe, in the world. Correct. Now, if you look at the world map, there is a place called Western Europe. Okay, Microsoft has opted that particular location to deploy their workloads, or to deploy their data center. Okay, so what they will think, if I deploy one physical data center in this region, any kind of disaster happens, maybe earthquake, tsunami, or any kind of flood comes, if my data center gets submerged, or if my data center gets burnt, or if my data center gets collapsed, all the workloads of my clients will be impacted. Correct, na? If there is no data center, no servers. So thinking that in mind, Microsoft has come up with a different plan. Okay, that plans is nothing but availability zones. Availability zones, we call it as AZs. So this availability zones are there. No? This is also nothing but a small data centers in the Western Europe country. Okay. So this Western Europe place, okay, they will deploy three availability zones which are segregated minimum 250 to 300 kilometer distance here, distance. So between each availability zone there are about 200 to 300 kilometer minimum distance will be there. So if tsunami comes, it won't go more than 300 kilometer, correct? If cyclone comes, it will not go more than 800 kilometer, because AZ1 to AZ2, okay, AZ1 to AZ2 250 300 kilometer. From AZ1 to AZ3, if you see, there is about 600 700 kilometers, correct now. So that kind of difference will be there, so that I will be safeguarded from the natural calamities. So what Microsoft will tell you, when you are building an application, if it is highly critical application, just build behind the load balancer and try to keep the servers one server at one different availability zone. So say for example you have an application here, let me write. So the application name is facebook.com. This is under the load balancer. So what Microsoft will tell you, keep one server in this availability zone, this availability zone, in this availability zone, and add behind the load balancer. Okay, all together this is there in the Western Europe. So when people are try to access the facebook.com, see there are three application servers are hosted in three physically separated data centers. For some reason, if this data center gets collapsed, you still have two more data center to give the same application, okay, for the facebook.com. So with this approach, what Microsoft is achieving, Microsoft is achieving the redundancy for the infrastructure. Say for example one data center is went down also, goes down also, you still have two regions or two physical data centers, and the application availability will be high, means the downtime for the entire application is very minimal. So with this approach, what Microsoft will tell you, they will commit you 99.99999 six nines, we will call it as six nines. Okay, six nines of SLA they will call it as. Okay, so this is what region and availability zone. So then let us understand the availability set. So availability zone is nothing but these are all the physical data centers, okay, which any provider, any cloud provider can give you, but they will be separated, okay, within 200 to 250 kilometer or 250 to 300 kilometer distance. If you read the Microsoft document, they will keep on changing. Sometimes they will tell 250 to 300, and other documents will minimum they will commit 200, maximum up to 350 also there. So let us be on through 250 kilometer, not a problem on an average. Okay, that is the physical data center redundancy availability zone will give you. Then the availability set. See, the availability set means what happens, Microsoft will keep you, okay, this is the hardware redundancy. When I say availability set, it is the hardware redundancy. Means when you deploy an application, what they will do, it is not in the different data centers. Okay, in the Western Europe only, they will put it in the one availability set only. Within the availability set, two different racks. Okay, this rack has got a separate power, this rack has got a separate power, this rack has got a separate AC, this rack has got a separate AC, this has got a separate network, this has got a separate network. Due to some reasons, okay, this has got a switch, the network switch has come here. For some reason, if this switch got burnt also, this application will be having connectivity for the another hardware. From there the application comes. So the difference is here the cost. When you say availability zone, Microsoft will give you triple six nine digits of six nines of SLA. But in case of availability set, Microsoft will give you 99 per 99 point some little difference is there. 9 only, but not 99. Maybe something is like 912, something like that. Okay, you read it. Compared to triple six nines, in case of availability set, you will have less SLAs, means availability. Okay, so now you know region, you know availability set. Availability zone means physical data center level redundancy. If one particular data center gets submerged, also you have the application. Availability set means this is the hardware redundancy within the same data center. Like you have two houses, one house get burnt also, you have another house. So in case of availability set, you have a single house but two different rooms. Okay, two rooms are there inside that. If something gets burnt in one room, you have another room. But if the both the entire houses get burnt means you will not have anything inside in case of availability set. That's the risk. So Microsoft will clearly call out the risk and they will tell you to select whatever you wanted. Okay, that is called as availability set. Are you guys able to hear me, guys?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. So now couple of more words like upscaling. Upscaling is nothing but increasing the capacity from lower to higher. Say for example, you have a server now. That server has got like 2 CPU, 4 GB memory, 100 GB of hard disk. Upscaling means you are increasing the size from 2 CPU to 4 CPU, 4 GB to 8 GB, 100 to 200. In case of CPU, or it can be increased, in case of memory, or in case of hard disk. All the four can be changed, or any one parameter can also be changed. So basically, you are increasing the capacity of a server or configuration of a server from lower level to the next level. That is called as upscaling. Okay, so downscaling means you are other way around. So you already have 4 CPU, but the computer is not utilizing, it will only have almost 40-50% of utilization. So to save the cost, what you will do, you will reduce to 2, reduce to 4, reduce to 100. That is called as downscaling. And the next one is snoozing. Snoozing means you are deallocating the virtual machine from the portal, okay, to reduce the cost. See, this Azure is, I told you, it's a pay as you go and it's a tenant based system. Correct now? So what happens? You have an application server. Say, for example, you have an application server. That application is required from 9 a.m. to evening 6 p.m. Okay. So per hour it is 10 rupees. Imagine. And you are running from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. means around 8 to 9 hours you are going to run. Correct now? So if you run for 9 hours also, it is 90 rupees. Imagine you are only using the application at 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. within this 9 hours of time, and you can spend 90 rupees. If you are not snoozing the server will run 24 bar 7. So per day, 24 hours will be there. So if you are not shutting down, you will get the bill for 240 rupees because 24 hours is there. So that is why the Microsoft has come up with an option you can do the snoozing. If you don't want the server, you can snooze it. When you snooze the server in the data center, what happens? That particular server where the operating system is running, your operating system running, no, that will get free up. And somebody else in India you are shutting down. Maybe in the America, there some person for them for us when the 6 p.m. okay 7 p.m. for them it is 6:30 in the early morning. Correct na? So there somebody power on the machine because their business starts there. So since you are shutting down, yours is getting free, another person is powering on the machine. Okay, when you powering on the machine, this same hardware will be used for that person. That is called as tenanting system. Means when you are shutting down the computer in the data center, that particular hardware will be get released, it will be free of operating system. Okay, the hard disk will be stored somewhere in the storage, but the physical hardware where the operating system was running, okay, that get free. Okay, since it is not free, somebody else is using the same hardware when it is required. That is called as tenanting system. It is not necessarily every day the same hardware will run your computer. When you do the snoozing or when you do the power on or power off, the hardware will be keep on changing from one hardware to another hardware. That is called as tenanting system. Okay, so now you know upscaling, downscaling and snoozing. Okay. The next one is snapshots. So snapshot means, what do you mean by a snap? You can see here, snap means it's an image. Shot means capturing, correct now? So both, if you look at snapshot means it is the capturing of the image of a disk to save the VM as is status. Okay. Say for example, you have configured an application, you did some configuration changes. Okay. Before you do the configuration changes, what you wanted to do? You wanted to safeguard the application with the current status. If something goes wrong with my new configuration, you can restore the computer or server from the old snapshot. So basically, snapshot means we are taking the, we are capturing the current status of the operating system. Like we will take the pictures when you go to trips and all, to preserve for our memories. We will take the pictures. We will take the selfies, correct? Na? Because to store that moment, okay, to cherish in future. The same thing here. We are capturing the as is status of the operating system. If something goes wrong, we can restore from the snapshot. That is called a snapshot. Okay. Next one is primary region. So primary region means it is your production region. Okay. So maybe you might have seen, if you are working somewhere, you have your head office, you have your branch office. Correct. Huh? So if you are working in some branch office regularly, your work will be there always in the branch office only. But for due to some sometimes you may, for to get some training, or sometimes for any kind of conferences or meetings, you may need to talk, you may need to travel to your dr, I mean your uh, secondary region. Okay, that is called as dr region. So primary region nothing but where your actual applications, the day to day applications are hosted. So in case of cloud, when somebody talks about primary region, okay, that region, say for example, this is your primary region, this is Western Europe. All your application servers, networking, everything is hosted here. Then you are thinking that, okay, why should I depend on the Microsoft SLA or Microsoft infrastructure? Okay, Microsoft, even though the Microsoft is giving me availability zones here in the within the Western Europe, but sometimes I've seen the tsunami or the earthquake happen thousand together like that. I don't want to take the risk. No matter, even if I spend little bit more money, I want to safeguard my applications. So then what you will do? You will create one more DR region or secondary region. We will call it as DR region, disaster recovery. So you will choose India here as a region. So what you have configured, there is an option called site recovery. Using that site recovery, for the you have here what you can synchronize the critical workloads from primary region to the DR region. So you have, imagine you have here 1,000 servers. Not all the 1,000 servers are required to be in the DR region. Only the top critical applications, maybe the Active Directory definitely needed. Without the Active Directory, nobody will not be able to log in. So we need to configure this Active Directory AD01, Active Directory 01 server, to sync here. So it will be one copy will be coming and sitting every day. You create a user that will come and sit here, one copy. Okay. So and you have an application server. Okay. That application server will also be getting synchronized here. So in case of disaster, the entire Western Europe goes down also. You have the critical applications are operating from the DR region. That is called as disaster recovery region or the secondary region. So we have a separate topic for this, but now try to understand the terminologies. Is it clear? Guys, can somebody please confirm?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. So now let us understand. Now that is about the terminologies. Okay. Now let us jump into the virtual machine concept. Okay. So this is, I mean, what is a virtual machine is the first question. So you already know virtual machine means it's a virtual environment and it's a VM. We will deploy this server in the virtual environment. Okay. So it works like a computer within a computer. Okay. I told you, you have a big computer. On top of that, you will install the hypervisor, and you will create small computer. So virtual machine is nothing but computer within computer, I could say. Okay, but each and every computer works as an isolated portion of the host computer, but they have their own CPU, their own memory, and their own operating system. Okay, so they have the network connectivity, but they work as a separate entity. Okay, that is called as virtual machine. So since we started about the virtual machine, you should also try to understand the virtualization. Okay, so virtualization means you're already aware. Yesterday I told you, today morning also I gave you a little bit understanding. Virtualization means it's a process that allows to utilize the hardware more efficiently and to reduce the uh, human effort and reduce the maintenance cost. Okay, and to reduce the workloads, everything. Okay, we use this virtualization concept. Okay, to create computer within the computer. That's all. So virtualization means it's a process. Virtualization means it is a concept actually. Okay, where we use a software to create computer within the computer. That's all. Basic, I mean, layman terminologies. Okay, like you have a big physical server, and you are installing the hypervisor on top of the physical server, and that physical server can be converted into small computers. So you are creating computer within the computer. That is called as virtualization. So how many virtualization providers we have? If you think, so VMware is there, Hyper-V is there, Citrix, and IBM Cloud is also there. So all these are the virtualization provider currently we have in the market. In that, VMware and Hyper-V both are very famous. So VMware is the product of VMware, Hyper-V is the product of Microsoft. Okay, so if somebody asks you what is the virtualization technology Microsoft uses, you should tell it is hypervisor, Hyper-V or hypervisor. Okay, we will not use VMware because VMware is the VMware product. Why Microsoft will use, when they have their own product, why they will use VMware? Correct, na? So VMware is different, hypervisor is different. Okay, but both does the same work. Okay, in the Microsoft data center we have the hypervisor only. So since I'm talking about the hypervisors, there are two types of hypervisors. Okay, one is the bare metal hypervisor, another one is the type 2 hypervisor. Okay, the bare metal, see, if I talk about the bare metal hypervisor, so bare metal hypervisor is nothing but it interacts with the underlying physical resources, replacing the traditional operating system altogether. The most commonly appear in virtual server scenarios, VMware ESXi, Windows Hyper-V, etc. Means on top of the physical hardware, you are installing an operating system itself. Means when I say type 1, normally what happens, in the hardware you are going to install an operating system. That operating system itself is an hypervisor or ESXi. Both works as an operating system. Okay, but the type 2 means you already have an operating system like Windows 10, Windows 11 is there. On top of that you are going to install. Okay, see, I'll show you here. You have the VMware workstation here. See, you have the VMware workstation here. If I open this VMware workstation, see, this VMware workstation is installed within the Windows 11 operating system. You look at here, if I go to command prompt, if I go to command prompt, and if you look at the WinWord, if you type the Windows version command, it will give you Windows 11. So I have the Windows 11 operating system. It's a Microsoft operating system. Okay. On top of that, I've installed the VMware as a software. That is called as Type 2 software. Whereas if I open this VMware, okay, and you see here ESXi is there. So this ESXi is installed as a server. See, this itself is an operating system. Let me power on this. Okay. So this hyper type 1 is nothing but it's a bare metal one. See, bare metal means nothing but it will run on the bare metal hardware. Okay, that itself is an operating system. That is called as hypervisor or type 1 or bare metal hypervisor. See here, loading VMware ESXi. So but 1 minute, let this power on. Okay, so when this gets power on, you can actually use a URL and connect to that computer, and you can create multiple virtual machines. I'll show you. Wait. Okay, this is actually the type 1, and this is actually other one is this is actually is a type 2. Okay, if you look at appwiz.cpl, if you go application wizard.cpl, if you go, you see the VMware is installed as a software. See, VMware workstation, it is installed as a software, correct? You can even remove it. But the type 1 is not like that. That itself is an operating system. If you remove the operating system, entire workload will lose the connectivity. You will not have any virtual machines at all. You will not be able to create the virtual machines at all like that. So that is the difference between the two types of hypervisors are there. One is the bare metal one. The bare metal means it will act, I mean, you have to install an operating system. So hypervisor is thing, but it's an operating system. So type 2 means it will work on an operating system. It will work as an application. See, that's why I mentioned here. Type 2 hypervisor runs as an application on an existing operating system. Okay. But the type 1 hypervisor interacts with the underlying physical resources. Means if you have CPU, memory, hard disk, the hypervisor interacts with that physical resources. Okay, and that replaces the traditional operating system to get all together. Okay, and it will help you to create that bigger physical box into small virtual machines. That is called as type 1 and type 2. If I go back here, see, it is loading. It has got a link here. If you look at https 192.168.190.100. Okay, what I will do, I'll open Chrome. I will open Chrome, and in the Chrome I will type https colon 192.168.190.100. Okay, see, if I hit enter, if I go advanced, if I proceed to this 100, see, I am getting the VMware console. Maybe Nanda, if you're already working in your office, you might have seen this console. Okay. There you can just put root password at the rate 123. If you put the password, see here, this will allow you to create the virtual machines. You can see here VM01 is there. Okay, there are three virtual machines are there. See, VM1, VM2, VM3. So this, there are three virtual machines, VM01, VM02, VM03. Means this ESXi, this piece of software, the bare metal hypervisor, is helping you to create multiple virtual machines. Okay, I think now you got an idea. This is clear. Yeah, guys, any questions here? Silence is no, I'll move on. So now the benefits actually the same. The resource efficiency means if you want to increase the resource from 1 to 4 GB to 6 GB, you can just do. If you are not using enough, you can reduce it. That is called as resource efficiency. Easier management. You don't need to go to data rooms. Have the physical boxes. Just log into one console. I just logged into the console with the help of the URL, and there you see all the virtual machines. Easy to management. Okay, and minimal downtime. If you want to do any kind of activity, no need to do the coordination, just log into the portal. You know how long it will take, like 2-3 minutes. Okay, and do the work. If you want to restart, do that. Okay, update, upscale the server or downscale the server, restart it, and done. So minimal downtime, faster provisioning. So buying, I told you, no, if you want to buy a physical server, you have to send an email, get the quotation, then do the negotiation, then place the PO, then you have to place the order, then the physical server will come. It will take 2-3 months of time to buy one physical hardware. But here it is not like that. Okay, guys, 1 second, getting an important call. 1 minute. ಏನಂಟಿ, ಕಾಲ್ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡ್ತಿದ್ದೀರಿ, ನೀನು ಮಾಡ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಹೋಗಿ ಬರ್ತೀನಿ ನಾನು. So that much of time is not required here. See, if you want to create a virtual machine in the VMware, it's very easy. See, you just come to this portal, click on the create a new virtual machine, say next. Okay, give some name, VM04. Okay, and say next. Here, select the operating system family. It is what kind of operating system? I want Windows operating system. What is the operating system version you wanted? I want Windows Server 2016. Okay, or 2019, 2022 only I'll put it. Okay, say next. Okay, what is the data store you wanted? Just take some data store storage and all. Okay, and how much CPU memory you wanted? Just give whatever you wanted. Okay, I'll just give something. So here I don't need to have a data disk and finish. See here, I don't have enough space. That is the reason it is not happening. Let me create one with very less space. Next, VM04. Okay, it is fine. I'll use Windows operating system. I'll just use 2016. Okay, so next, data store has got 71. Free is only 4.34 is there. Okay, let me do one thing. I'll just put it 4. 4 only I'll put it just to dummy. I wanna show so see, finish. See how quickly I've created. This is a VM4. So same thing, if you want to buy a new server, the physical server, in the traditional way, it was taking a lot of time. Correct? Huh? That is called as, it is quicker one. Okay, means faster provisioning. So these are all the benefits of the virtual machine, virtualization. 948. Okay. Now the actual theory starts, the virtual machine. All this time we discussed about the background only. Okay. See here, when I talk about the virtual machine, virtual machine means it is the computer, works within the computer. Okay, you cannot touch and feel the computer, that is why it is called as virtual machine. So in the Azure there are about 6 categories or families of the virtual machines we have. Okay, so Microsoft categorized the virtual machine based on the family. Okay, if you want to use a general computer for general usage, so Microsoft has got own family category called general purposes. Okay, then if you want more graphics, if you want more gaming kind of things, then Microsoft will come up with you GPU and Nvidia. So if you want more performance, like you want 128 GB memory or 256 GB memory, okay, with too many processor, so Microsoft has come up with a category called high performance, where you can increase more CPU, more memory both. That is called as high performance. So memory optimized, where you need less processor but more number of memory. That is called as memory optimized. Memory means RAM. And the compute optimized, where you need more CPU, less RAM memory. That is called as compute optimized. And the last one is storage optimized. You need a small computer with less CPU, less memory, but you need more storage space to store the data. In such scenarios, Microsoft has got storage optimized. So these are all the category of virtual machines we have in the Azure. Okay, if you look at here, the basic tiers are there. Okay, basic tier, standard tier, and virtual machine disk, IOPS, everything is there. Okay, so you see here, basic tier means you have from A0 to A4, means the processor vary from 1 to 4, like 1 or 2 CPU, minimum 4 GB to 8 GB memory. We call it as basic tier. So the cost for the basic tier would be around per hour 4 rupees, or 10, less than 10 rupees will be there. Okay, per hour. The standard tier means these are the standard SKUs: A series, D series, DV2, F series, G series, and N series. So each and every series is used for a different type of purposes. So A series we call it as a general purpose compute. Here I mentioned no general purpose compute. All the A series are categorized as general purpose. All the D series are, D means data, the storage. Okay, all the D series of virtual machine has got SSD storage, means SSD storage will give better performance there. So all the DV2 series we call it as, these are all the latest compute actually series. So compared to the other computers, this will be 35% faster than the compared to the D series. Means if the D series virtual machine do 100 calculations, so DV2 will do 135 calculations per seconds. So the performance will be too much, like 35% better than compared to the actual D series, the DV2 series will perform. And then the F series. F series means for the web, they're actually the low price compute, means F series are very cost is very cheaper actually. So they will use for the web server and less use application servers like that. Okay, G series means you already know. G means it's the largest virtual machines. Means high performance. I told you, no. G series means high performance based computers. You see here up to 445 48 GB of memory means RAM can be added to one computer. Up to 448 GB of RAM can be added to one computer. Okay, and we are struggling with one 4 GB, 8 GB our computer, no. But imagine a computer has got 448 GB of memory and it supports up to 64 disks. In our laptop desktop, maximum one disk will be there or two disks will be there. But imagine the G series servers will support up to 64 disks. Okay, and each and every disk up to 4 terabyte will go. One disk is 4 terabyte, guys. Imagine 4 terabyte means 4000 GBs. Okay, 4000, 1000 into 1024, 4100 GB one disk is, imagine. Okay, that much bigger size can be added in the uh, G series. And N series is the graphics. That is, I mean, if you want a graphics card like in a 2 GB, 4 GB, or any gaming purposes and high design, high graphic related machines, you can go with N series because they will that will come with NVIDIA CPUs. Okay, that is called as the standard tiers. So basic is the thing, but only the test workloads. In your office, you have like a test machines or development machines where you need to spend less cost. You can go with the basic tier. So standard tier means where you have at least regression servers or lower environment servers or production servers. Then you go with the A series, depend upon your requirement. Okay. I will give you the notes. Don't worry. The same I have written in the notes. I will send you the notes. And the virtual machine disk means if you want the data disk, right? What kind of data disk you want? You want a premium HDD, you want a standard HDD, or you want a standard SSD, premium SSD, ultra disk. Okay, there are multiple types of disks are there. Okay, and the capacity, if you want to know, so maximum Microsoft was allowing. Okay, till 2022 they were allowing 1 terabyte earlier. Maximum the disk size can be there 1 terabyte. In the recent days Microsoft has increased that 1 terabyte to 4 terabytes. If somebody asks you what is the maximum capacity of a disk in the Azure, you can tell 4 terabyte. So single disk can be go up to 4 terabytes. Okay, and they keep on increasing. This number can vary, maybe upcoming days they may support up to 16 terabytes also. Okay, not a problem. And the virtual machine in the Azure, we will call it as the virtual disk. The virtual machine in the disk, we call it as virtual hard disk, VHD. VHD means virtual hard disk. When you switch on the computer, when you install the computer, your operating system will be stored in a disk. That disk is called as virtual hard disk. When you shut down the computer, this virtual hard disk will just go and sit in a storage. Okay, storage unit. That time the hardware will be getting released free up. Once you power on the machine, this virtual hard disk will be load the hardware, I mean operating system to one hardware. Okay, CPU memory and yeah, network there. That is when your charges will be start applicable. I mean the per minute charge will be then that start applicable only when you run the computer. Okay, if you are shutting down the computer you will not get any charge. Okay, so now we understand as tiers and you also understand the disks. So we have another metrics in the Azure, we call it as IOPS. IOPS is nothing but input output operations per second. Means this is depend upon the both the virtual machine SKU as well as the disk type. If the virtual machine SKUs like a high performance and the hard disk is SSD, standard SSD, the computer will be super speed. Normal hard disk, maybe in your laptop you might have seen. Olden days we had standard HDD, standard hard disk was there. To switch on a computer, it was taking about 2-3 minutes. You would have just gone for a coffee and have a coffee and come. But nowadays it is not like that. I have a machine, okay, it's an X1 Carbon Lenovo I'm using, next generation computer it does. If I just power on my laptop, it just bring up in 3 to 4 seconds. You just stand like this, your machine will be powered on. You restart the computer, it will never even take 5 seconds also. Less than 5 seconds, the computer will be up and running. Okay, so that depends, that performance is depends on the IOPS only. Okay, so each and every different SKU of virtual machine will be having separate IOPS values. If you want more IOPS, you need to go with good virtual machine. And if you go with a good virtual machine, you should also go with the standard SSD or premium SSD. Okay, so standard SSD, premium SSD disk type, actually there is huge cost difference. So standard HDD and premium SSD has got 3 to 4 times of cost difference will be there. Okay, if 100 GB of standard HDD will cost you 50 rupees per month, the standard and premium SSD will cost you around 250 to 300 rupees per month. Okay, 3 to 4 times of cost will be there, difference will be there. Okay, so that's about the IOPS. IOPS is very very important. If you are working as a solution architect, you have to think all these things. Why am I giving you all this information means, this you are going to take the solution architect exam. Okay, if you get placed also, you will get placed as a solution architect. If a solution architect don't know these basics, how will you be able to manage? Not possible. So that is why you should understand the tiers, the basic and standard tiers, and the category of computes, and you need to know the price of the virtual hard disk, and also the cost, and also the size, and also you should keep the application performance in your mind. Then IOPS will also be important. That is why I have captured these points here. And if you want to calculate the price of a device, you have this Azure pricing calculator. Okay, you just go to the Azure pricing calculator, select a service, and it will tell you how much cost it is. If you go as a pay as you go, what is the cost? If you go, a reservation, what is the cost? Okay, everything you'll get it in the Azure pricing calculator. See here the types, description, uses, general purposes, computes. Okay, these things are there. This is keep on updating. This is the old one. You can just look at the Azure um, portal, you will get the latest things actually. Okay, so then, how do you build the virtual machine? Sir, I thank you so much. I know I have the login created. Okay, so I have a test subscription now, and that is valid for 28 to 30 days, and I have 15,000 credits. So how can I create the virtual machine? So virtual machine in the Azure, there are various ways of creating. Okay, so you can use the portal, like you just logged into the Azure portal, just go to the virtual machine the way we created yesterday, click on the new virtual machine, select the region, select the resource group, select the operating system, give the username and password, select the hard disk, done. Your virtual machine will be created. So same say, some people will be good in PowerShell, some people will be good in some programming skills. They can also do the PowerShell script and do the deployments. Or you can even do the command line interface. Command line interface using CLI, you can also build a virtual machine. You can use Azure Resource Manager, and you also have a lot of automations nowadays. Okay, but there are various ways of deploying the virtual machines, but I'm going to show you maybe two types. One is Azure Portal, another one is PowerShell. How to use a PowerShell to build a VM, and how to use Azure Portal to build a VM, I'm going to show you. So further to that, there are deployment modules, we call it as. There are two types of deployment modules. Okay, so one is the classic deployment model, another one is the ARM, Azure Resource Management deployment model. Okay, the classic one is the very old one. It is outdated. Currently, we don't have this classic deployment model, but in the interview, definitely they will ask you what type of deployment module you will use. You have to tell ARM. ARM means it is Azure Resource Management or Manager Deployment Model. Okay, there are two types of modules are there. If you go to Google, then type Azure Classic Deployment Model, the window will be different. If you go to Azure, just go to portal.azure.com, then the portal will be different. Okay, in the portal.azure.com, in the latest deployment model, which is ARM, you have lot of features, lot of services you can see there, and it supports lot of automations, lot of deployment types of deployments, lot of automations tools will be integrated in the ARM, but in the classic it is not. Okay, so now everybody moved from classic to deployment. I mean the ARM deployment model. Now everybody moved. So these are the two deployment modules we have. And if you ask me about the day-to-day related activities with respect to the virtual machine, you may ask, sir, what will be the work in the cloud? Do I need to write every day the solutions? No, you don't need to give the solutions every day. So every day the work in the cloud is this one. So I told you snoozing. You may need to start and stop the virtual machines to save the cost. Okay, VM start and stop and snoozing both are same. So VM performance check. Some user will tell the application is very slow. You may need to go to the portal and check the performance. How the performance of the computer is about. Whether the CPU is increased, memory is increased. If the CPU is spiked up, is it always the spike is there only during some activities the spike is there? That analysis you have to do. And VM imaging. I told you can even take the snapshot of the image of a VM to store the VM status as is. In case of any changes you made, you can restore it back. And VM upscale and downscale means you can do the upscaling of a VM or you can even do the downscaling of a VM. And adding a new disk to the existing VM. Say for example, you already have a virtual machine. You may ask to add an additional disk to the existing VM. How to do that? How to go to portal? How to add the disk and how to create the disk in the operating system inside? That is your work. Are increasing or decreasing the VM disk size. Like you have 128 GB, you want to make it 256 GB. How to do that? Or you have 512 GB, but you are not using it and you are just paying for the cost and you want to reduce to 256 GB. How to do that? I'll show you. And disk snapshot. If you want to take the one particular disk snapshot, how to do that? How to check the activity logs. Activity logs means who does what time they have done. And how about the resource health check? Means if server is up and running but you are not able to connect to that, then you can go to resource health check and check what exactly the issue. Do you need to redeploy the VM? The Microsoft will tell you what has to be done. You just have to read it and deploy it. That's all. Okay. So these are all the couple of activities with respect to the virtual machine. Okay. So with this, I'm end of the slide. Any questions? Let me stop the recording.